live.
Yo, yo. Looking for Instagram to come up.
Yes, went live on Instagram.
Yeah, there we go. Yo, it's been a minute. I don't know if y'all remember it, but just in case you forgot, allow me to reintroduce myself. Theme.
Let's go.
Joy, pains, ups, downs, are working all day.
Everything.
Everything's gonna be okay. Gonna hear some good news.
Morning, y'all.
Come on.
Joy, pains, ups, downs, are working all day. Everything's gonna be okay.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son,
Everything's gonna be okay.
that whosoever will believe in him shall not perish but have
Everything's gonna be okay.
everlasting life.
Gonna hear some good news today.
Yo, turn my mic up. Y'all ain't see this coming. Get ready to catch this. Come to snatch your righteous mind, not your edges. God is the goal, and then there's the period. This thing is real. Woo cha, we serious, intentional, the original. God is in control. Do it for your soul. Gotta let the whole world know. Hey yo, hey yo.
Everything's gonna be okay.
Yo, put it in the comments. Tell somebody everything's gonna be okay.
Gonna hear some good news today.
I can't tell you how good it feels. Welcome to the family table. Yo, I missed y'all. It's so good to see you. Welcome back. Thanks for pulling up on a brother. And yo, this is what we do. We said we are here to encourage you and to let you know everything's gonna be okay. So just put it in the comments. What's up, cousins? I like that. I like that. I like that, Betsy. We just a bunch of cousins coming up in here, doing our thing, pulling up to the family table. We started this 4 years ago, and the theme and the motivation and the push is that, yo, everything's gonna be okay. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what's going on. I just want to come on and give you a little good news. Just encourage you and let you know everything's going to be okay. God's not done. God's not finished. God's still moving. God's still working. And everything's going to be okay. And it hit different. Depends on what day it is. So that's why we just come on just to let you know. And I just want you to see it in the comments 100 times over. So if you on, we own everything. We on Facebook, we on Twitter, we on TikTok, we on YouTube. So if you're able to put it on there, just tell somebody everything's going to be okay. I want you to be inundated by that encouragement. Yo, so we're gonna do what I call just some pop-up episodes over the summer, over the next couple of months. So I'm just gonna kind of pop up and just kind of show up. But then in August we will launch officially, and I'll go 3 days a week. We'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. Come on, invite people. Yo, we got to build it, invite people, share, and have them come on. All right, let's get in. Let's get in. All right. It's just so good to see y'all. I see y'all up in here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. 90s, in the 90s, which I think is one of the greatest decades. I think we had the best TV shows, the best music, the best all of that. What was your favorite TV show in the 90s? Just some of y'all just put it in the comments. In the 90s, early 2000s, but really the 90s babies, those that grew up in the 90s, we had the best R&B. We just had some of the, it was the decade that really shaped culture. What were some of your favorite shows in the 90s? Put it up, all right? Like even some of the nomenclature that we use. So like Martin, Living Single, Fresh Prince, I see it. Some of the Cosby Show, some of the phrases that we say came from the 90s. And from that era, a different world, all of these places, it really shaped us. I'm gonna hit you one that you probably won't won't suspect, but it's one of the greatest shows. And I didn't even get into it until after the 90s. I didn't get into this show until probably in the last 10 years. But it's Frasier. Any Frasier fans? Any Frasier fans? Yo, Frasier would have these captions that would set up the scene that's coming afterwards. So it'll have this caption, it'll create your curiosity, and then the scene will come up. But then at the end of Frasier's episodes, every now and then he'd have this phrase when they're running the credits, it'll say, "Thanks for calling." It just says, "Thanks for calling." And then he'll list names and just do thank yous. And I always thought that was fascinating. What is it? And as I researched it, it were guests and friends of his that showed up on the show and that called in, and that was a part of the show, and that was his way of just kind of thanking them. So he would say, it just have that, "Hey, thanks for calling." You'd be like, what was going on? Why did they call you? What's happening? So in the book of Nehemiah, I studied Nehemiah a few back last year. We did a series on Nehemiah. And I'd never said in Nehemiah. Is really profound, very interesting. Y'all hear Micah, that's probably Micah in the background. You can probably hear him getting up, getting ready to go to school. I preached through Nehemiah and I preached through the whole book. So I preached chapter 1. In Nehemiah, it's all about this prophet who has this burden for Jerusalem and the city and the temple, and to see the temple rebuilt. So it's all about Nehemiah's leadership and getting the temple rebuilt. And it's pretty profound book on leadership. So I'm preaching on it week after week. He has his burden in chapter 1. He tells the king, "I want to go back," because the children of Israel had been exiled to Babylon. And it's all about them returning back home after they had been taken away, One of the things, though, that you can't avoid when you get in Nehemiah is that the children of Israel were taken away because of their refusal to give up idolatry. So God would warn them over and over and over again. Most of the story is about the rebuild, but I think it's worthy to acknowledge their contribution to why they had to rebuild to begin with. I guess one of the things that I want you to think about and consider is, in your journey, there'll be times when God will restore you, renew you, and we get excited about what God is doing in us. But we also got to practice the posture of acknowledging our contribution to how we got to where we are. Acknowledging our contribution to us having to rebuild to begin with. You just be real careful of people that are always complaining and always got heavy insight on what was done to them, but they never at once consider any contribution that they made to the issue or to the problem. See, we get blame easy, but contribution, yeah, we struggle with that. We know how to tell the truth about what they did, but can you tell the truth about what you did? Israel, although most of the story is about their rebuild, but you got to acknowledge their contribution. The children of Israel, they kept falling into idolatry and they kept not walking and trusting in God. So everything we're going to talk about comes out of what they contributed to, which was idolatry. I'm just saying, and I've had to practice in my own life. Yo, we know well what they did. Can you articulate humbly and honestly what you did and own your contribution? I'm telling you, your relationships will go to a whole nother level if you began with my contribution to the question of what had happened was I contributed to the mess that I ended up in. Being able to acknowledge that is huge. They're coming back, and they're coming back to Jerusalem. And out of compassion, Nehemiah He's the cup holder, the cup bearer of the king. So he's got a great gig, got a great job. Out of compassion, he asked some folks that were visiting from the city, "Hey, how's Jerusalem? How's Jerusalem?" And they tell him, "It's not good, bro. It's not good. The walls are down and the gates have been burned. And the gates have been burned and the walls are down. It's brutal, bro. It's brutal. Because when the gates are down, the walls are burned, it's easy for the enemy to come in. And it was just susceptible to being destroyed all over again and being captive all over again." His heart breaks. He asks permission from the king to go to Jerusalem and go help rebuild the wall. So he goes to Jerusalem and he goes back to kind of help rebuild the wall. First thing he does is he goes in chapter 2. It's this beautiful picture of him just walking the perimeter of the city and just seeing all that's been burned and all that's been lost. I think even before you start to rebuild, it's just good just to take some time and consider all that's been lost and to mourn the level of loss that you've experienced. Most of us are so quick to rebuild and let's go. But you don't do a, sometimes and it's hard. Nobody wants to look at that, but you just go look at all that the enemy has done and name it. Number one, so you know what's been done to you. Some of you just kept going after trauma, after tragedy, and you can't even articulate what's even been done to you. They'd be like, what happened? You'd be like, I don't even know, but something happened. At some point, you need to be able to kind of name some of the things that happened, lest you be triggered and show up again in ways that you wouldn't want to, or you cause things that you would like Nehemiah got off the horse and he just walked it and he said, "Oh, the gates were burned here. The wall was burned here. This relationship hurt me here. This frustrated me here. This was a betrayal here. This is what my contribution was here." Like, evaluate the places where the walls have been burned and where the gates have been torn down and the gates have been down. Like know what happened to the city. Know what happened to the gates. Like, he laments. And then, so I can stay right there all day. But I don't know how long I'm trying to go. I ain't trying to be like Shay and do 3 hours on this joint. But I do think we rush past kind of what happened to us. And sometimes you can't even fully articulate it because it's so far down. This is where therapy is so huge, because a therapist will help unearth and kind of excavate some of those things that can help bring back. It's like, yo, that happened to you and it's been shaping you ever since. Yeah. Pastor Dre says the grieving process can be a gift to move you into a better place and show a better. Yo, grief is a gift. It's a gift from God. Grief ain't a bad thing. So the grief is not something to be avoided. Grief is something for you to probably walk into, because it helps healing. Do you know? Okay, all right. Do you know that God designed your body to only take so much? So grieving, one of the big parts of grief, one of the first stages is denial. Well, denial is a beautiful gift in a season. For a season, denial is a beautiful gift. So it's kind of like this. If I all of a sudden cut my arm almost to the bone, my body is going to decide and conclude this is too much pain for Albert to feel right now. So my body will immediately say, all right, Operation Shock, and it'll put my body in shock. So I immediately don't feel what I see. So I see I'm cut to the white meat. I got my bone right here. I can see that, but my body won't feel it because my body will decide denial is the best pathway forward right now. Denial is the best option. You need to walk in denial right now because you cannot handle what what the reality is of what's going on. So the first season, you'll go into denial, and it's healthy. So all denial ain't bad. It's healthy. But so I'll go to the doctor, and we'll get some pain medicine. They'll sew it up. They'll stitch it up. And then about 2 days, after that morphine wear off, the body's going to be like, okay, it's okay for Albert to begin to feel. It's okay for Albert to begin to process, watch this, the pain that his arm encountered, because a part of the healing is he's got to feel that, but he's going to feel it in a way that's healthy for him, that moves him forward. Some of you are still in denial and you're not feeling, and you're still in the shock stage. And it was good for, denial is good for a season, but you can never completely heal with denial. At some point, you've got to take in healthy dosages the pain that was caused so that you can process that pain, because on the other side of the pain is healing. So you got to be willing to lament. Is this good? Are y'all with me up in here? Are y'all, does that make sense? So you got to be able to process the pain and go on a journey under the tutelage of care providers. You see what I'm saying? Go under the tutelages of a counselor. Some of you still ain't processed the divorce. Some of you still ain't processed what your daddy didn't do or what your daddy said. Some of you still hadn't processed something. So it's like shock was necessary for a season. Denial was necessary for a season, but in a healthy, Holy Spirit-led way, begin to release the pain so that you can begin to heal and move past denial and begin to work through it. I love it. Nehemiah looked at the walls, and then at the end of chapter 2, he says, all right, let's go. Let's start to rebuild. Let's start to rebuild. Let's get the journey going. And then we get to chapter 3. And that's where I just want to sit just for a few minutes. If I didn't feel an appreciation, the pain and depth of what happened, I couldn't heal correctly. Yeah, that's good, Mosky. That's good. That's good. Let it get sink in. You get to chapter 3 and trying to preach this, y'all, I'm just not gonna lie. It's just weird. It challenged my preaching prowess. Like I get to chapter 3 and it's like, okay, y'all, chapter 3, they're building the wall and Nehemiah just writes down a bunch of names. Like it's literally just a bunch of names of people who was building the wall. Like it's just like, and these ain't GED names. These are PhD names. Like these words you can't even pronounce. I tried to read chapter 3. Most people don't even try to read chapter 3. I tried to read the whole chapter 3 in service that Sunday. Yo, it was like, if you didn't know I had a GED before that Sunday, you knew Albert Tate had a GED, because I could not pronounce half the words, but I said them with confidence. I was pronouncing them words with all the confidence in the world and was just wrong. It was just wrong. But I got through it and I read all these names, and it was weird because he's just saying names, and then they such and such built this house, and then such built this house. I mean, you know. And then I just asked the church, I just said, what did y'all hear? And some people heard that it was women building the wall, because there was names of women in there. It was families coming together building the walls, because it was families. There were entrepreneurs, business owners. A guy that had owned a perfume business built the wall. There were priests. There were lay ministers. So it was like ministers and lay people building the wall. So it's all that kind of. And then finally, this guy yelled from the back. I said, "What did you hear?" He said, "A bunch of names." And I thought, and then the light bulb clicked, and I said, "Yeah, a bunch of names." Because it takes a bunch of names to build the wall. It takes a bunch of names to do what God's called you to do. And I immediately thought about when my gates were down and when my walls were burned. Who were the names that passed me a brick? Nehemiah got to chapter 3 and he says, I am not going to keep going without taking time to write down every name that showed up to pass a brick. Like some people will look at chapter 3 and think it's a waste because it's not a storyline. It's not a story. It's not a revelation. No, Nehemiah just says, I'm not going to complete this story. And my book will not be complete without me taking time. And I'm going to write every name of every person that passed a brick in this season. Because that's how the wall got rebuilt. That's how the gates got put back up. These were people who passed bricks. And that's how we got rebuilt. When I think about the last year that I've had, and I know as you think about the season that you've been in, I want you to think about the season when your gates were down, when your walls were burned, and when you were your most vulnerable, most susceptible to the enemy coming in, when you were at your lowest. Who passed you a brick? Who passed you a brick? Oftentimes, if I'm honest, I'm more likely to remember the people who threw a brick than remembering the people who passed a brick. Can we just keep it real? I'm so used to giving so much energy that people that threw bricks at me, as opposed to people that passed bricks to me to help me rebuild. I give them way too much energy. And what the Lord said is, we are not about to come out of this season bitter, but we coming out better, because we ain't focusing on the people that threw bricks. We focusing on the people that passed bricks. Most of the time, we know our haters more than we know and acknowledge our friends. The people that showed up when your gates were down and your walls were burned and said, we have come to help you rebuild. There are people in your life. Just think about them. The people in your life who, when you were at your lowest, they passed you a brick. As a matter of fact, right now, just by way of acknowledgement in just a celebration of Jesus, if you're on a device where you can chat, where you can type in the chat, some of you just put their first name. The people that pass you a brick, just put their name in there. Or if you don't want to expose them, just put their initials. But let's just fill the chat right now and just acknowledge who passed you a brick. We don't think about these people enough. We don't thank them enough. I don't think we recognize and acknowledge them enough. I think the haters take so much energy because the betrayal is so great. And we'll talk about that. I'll get into that more. But the betrayal becomes so great in what they did and what they didn't do and expectation, all that they get all the energy. But Nehemiah is like, nah, I'm not about to write Nehemiah about the people that burned these walls and tore down these gates and the people that throw brick. I'm not about to give a whole chapter to them. I'm not about to give a whole chapter to haters and the enemy. I'm giving this whole chapter to the people that showed up at my worst, to the people that showed up at my lowest, and the people that passed me a brick. I'm giving a whole chapter of just names of people who passed bricks. Yo, who are the people? Show love for the people that passed you bricks, because I'm telling you, you'll look back at your life and that's the very thing. Those are the very people that God used to get you where you are. Those people are invaluable. And when you get those people, you name them, and some of you ought to text them. Some of y'all, they passed you a brick and they got you through, and they don't even know that's who they are in your life. They don't even know. And it's like, it could have just been for a season. I don't even care. You could have just showed up. But in that moment, you needed that brick more than anything. That was exactly what you needed. Take some time today and just love on the brick pastors in your life. Just say, hey, you don't even know it, but I was in a low place one day, and you passed me a brick. I try to give a lot of energy to these people in my life because I know what it's like to have your gates down. I know what it's like to have your walls burned and to just be living off of daily bread and to have somebody come and just pass you a brick. I know it. I know what that's like. I know what that's like. So let me just tell you, it's so important. Don't give your enemies a whole chapter. We gonna acknowledge them because they do have a role to play. They do have a role to play, and we do need to know how to handle them because they are not a non-entity. You see what I'm saying? Like they are not a non-factor. Devon, put me straight on the camera. I want to look at their eyes. I want to look at their eyes. But man, the people that just pulled up on me, people that just showed up. So spend the day thankful for the people that showed up. Take time if you're able to and just send a little note. And some of you, your list are too long to try to do it all today, but just do it, But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing to consider before we go. Who are the people that need a brick to be passed to them? The thing about it should provoke gratitude for the bricks that were passed, but it should also provoke an invitation and an opportunity for you to look in your life and look in your sphere and even ask the question now, is there anybody in my life whose gates are down, whose walls are burned, that may need a brick today? Who should I go and see if I can help pass a brick to today? Y'all have been a source of encouragement to me. You talk about how I encouraged you through COVID and how being at the table made a huge difference. I just want you to know you've been a source of encouragement to me, and many bricks have been passed to me and La Rosa and our family through the Good News Today family. So I guess I just wanted to say on this first episode back, thanks for calling. Thanks for calling. Thanks for the bricks. You've helped the rebuild. Now let's pass each other bricks and let's rebuild together. This was fun. I think I'm gonna do it again tomorrow. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all like and share and pass this around. And I hope that was some good news for you today.